Hello and welcome to Right Now. Vaccine passports are the conversation of the day. While most sane human beings see the idea of a two-tier society as comparable to mid-30s Germany or the Jim Crow laws of segregation, you wouldn't know that if the television was your radar. Bloated waistlines on bloated salaries dominate the daytime TV debate and are quite fittingly crowing at the idea of demanding the young take an experimental drug that has already killed and injured many for something that doesn't affect them. But it isn't about protecting yourself, you see, it's about protecting them. See, my prick doesn't work if you don't have your prick. Heaven forbid, these people should take responsibility for their own health and well-being. Nah, that's your job. And while you're at it, you can carry my inhaler for me. After all, it's your moral duty. The obese Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, a man that would have devoured 2 tennis balls before he realised they weren't Pringles, is now dictating what young, healthy, fit individuals put into their body. It's about health, you see.
Yeah, there are thousands of nurses that have reached out to me, and although I haven't, because I'm fine, I really am fine, you know, I'm really happy with my husband, and I know that a lot of people are finding it difficult to even have conversations with loved ones. Yeah. I'm not being bullied or coerced, or there's not a threat of my job loss. And the reason why I'm walking is because of the thousands of nurses that have reached out to me that have got children and are in a different position than me. And they're the ones that I'm walking for. But I've said from the beginning, like, if we want to have a voice, we have to have a face. Yeah. You know, having an avatar and being in a group and, you know, simply hiding, moaning, complaining that something isn't right it's not enough. We need to take action. And I think there's a lot of almost like victim shaming where we are worried about what people are going to think of us, and that there's the team where people are saying that they feel like they're the only person in their team that feel like this. But I wonder if there's other people in their team that feel like it as well, but as soon as one person speaks out and gets bullied or publicly shamed in the staff room or whatever, that's what puts the other people off from having those conversations.
100%.
Did you ever think you'd be at a point where a Conservative UK government would be introducing vaccine passports?
I wouldn't have thought so at all. I mean, I'm absolutely flabbergasted at what's this Conservative government is doing, because they're doing everything opposite to what they should be doing, what they say on the tin and what they promised they would do before the election. And, you know, this has happened in most elections for the last 20 years or so, but it's worse this time. I mean, they're supposed to stand for freedom. But they're absolutely destroying freedom, you know, with this COVID situation. Obviously, we all know over the last 18 months that they've been wrecking the country, you know, bit by bit from the foundation. So I'm absolutely appalled, and I would never have believed it.
The Green Pass is in full effect now in Italy, where I am right now. I will be going to Paris for World Alternative Media, as well as the Netherlands and a few other places to report on how restrictions are actually playing out. One of the number one things you always have to ask when it comes to, you know, crazy mandates and restrictions that we've seen now for a year and a half, completely based in tyranny and technocracy, is that, are they being enforced? And what I am seeing on the ground is about 25-75, and by that I mean only about 25% enforced. You see signs for green passes everywhere. You see some people, like, I feel really good when I go into a restaurant here in Italy and they say green pass, and I say, no, I'm not giving you business, and I walk away from their empty restaurant. You know, it's crazy, but most places there's no restrictions. Obviously that'll get worse, just like it did with the masks. First it starts with you know, there's not much mask restriction. There's not much mask crackdown happening. And then it got insane after a while. That will come. We know this is going to get worse before it gets better. But one thing I've noticed is there's nightclubs, there's parties in the streets, completely illegal, and the police will kind of glance at it and then just look away. I feel like there is a lot to be said about Italians, especially right now, not following the mandates. Also not getting rid of the mandates, but they're just not following it. It's not being enforced for the most part. So it's been a beautiful thing to see. I reported from Milan a few days ago at a massive protest, and I watched as tens of thousands, they say about 50,000 people were in the streets shouting freedom, freedom, freedom. And what was amazing to me is watching people on the internet who aren't even there, freak out say that these people shouting freedom are fascists. Meanwhile, the people that claim these people are fascists support big pharma and government working hand in hand to destroy bodily autonomy. It's insanity.
And then when we look at what happened with the paedophile information exchange, which was formulated during the 1970s and had backing with members of three right honourables, three members of the Privy Council, right, for the Labour government, were backing a pro-paedophile group who wanted it to be legal for sex between man and a young boy. You know, and when they infiltrated Pine, they got the list of it. There was an army major in it. There was the head of the boys brigade. There was senior police officers. Boom, 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 boom. They were all there. You know, how is this not in the public interest? And why is this silenced?
I think that children will unite us, and I don't think that's wishful thinking. So you could argue that only a certain person approaches me with a certain view, but no one that I speak to on the street says they want their children vaccinated or they want their grandchildren vaccinated. Whether or not they have had it or not had it, everyone who is speaking to me is saying not the children.
Yeah.
And I think from a message point of view, because when you go to the protests, there's so many different messages. I think with the children, that will unite us. I think we can all agree, whatever our personal goals are. And you know, my message is a different message to somebody else. I'm just as bad, but I think with the children we can all unite with that. And my commitment of the cities is almost coming to an end now. And then after that, for me, it's all about helping people make connections and also about the children.
Yeah.
Going forward with the Heritage Party, what would you say to people at home as a reason to vote for you? What is your policy of like, this is, if I get into a position of authority, a position where I can actually affect change, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, our strap line is very, very simple. It's freedom, family, nation. We want our freedom back because it's been taken away from us. It's been taken away by the Tories, by Labour, whoever, and it's appalling. We've got to get our civil liberties back. You know, our democracy is being destroyed, and we want to restore that and restore our freedom. Family, we've got to put families at the heart of our nation, at the heart of it. So the family unit is the fundamental basic building block of society. And if we have strong families, a mother and a father bringing up their children and they're supported, then we have strong children being brought up who are mature and independently minded, and it's better for everybody. And the nation, you know, I do believe in the nation state. I was a big supporter of Brexit. And now I think that we need to get out of the tentacles of the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and all these other things that are taking away our sovereignty and mean that we can't make policies that put the interests of our citizens first. We need to get out of those things so that we can be independent and we can forge our own way, and we can try to make the country as good as it possibly can be without any interference.
And, you know, I have to be frank, Gareth, it's all the blue chip all the blue chip accountancy firms and all the blue chip law firms that, whether you are very wealthy or if you're just, you know, a hard-working average person, they know where your assets are. Right. And so they can very easily cause this insolvency situation, which is an absolute fraud. Insolvency is a license to steal, and we can prove that.
Yeah.
Because all the court documents are false instruments.
Yeah. So when your ex-husband died, they went, oh yeah, sorry, he was actually bankrupt. So all this vast amount of money that was offshore suddenly doesn't exist, but it does exist, and it's in someone else's pocket, basically.
Well, it's even worse than that, Gareth, because if you look at the timeline, I won every applications on the merits of the case in the rigged family courts. And, you know, that room used to be full of 30 mainstream media across the world. But what they did, and what I've learned, and I've said this will not happen this time, is they put reporting restrictions on the truth behind the wealth and what was happening within the case. So this time, with my criminal barrister who's never lost, there's going to be no reporting restrictions, because this is happening to people, families across this country. and it is systemic fraud. So in the public's interest, and like they use national security, this is national security. Because if it's not stopped, Gareth, they're coming for you and everyone else.
Oh, absolutely. And no doubt any dissident of the state will be high on the list of people to clean out.
In any line of policing, when you get good at what you're doing, you get moved on. You end up on these good little units and your career is very fruitful. When you look at paedophilia and you get good at identifying paedophilia and all its connections, the opposite happens.
Wow.
He said, your name is getting mentioned in the corridors of Scotland Yard regarding what you're doing. You're getting too successful. Be very, very careful. And he said, went on to tell me about two politicians, and one was a Home Secretary. And he said, you know, we had this bloke bang to rights on 2 occasions with young boys. And again, we got to look at this in the context it is. So I'll just finish this thing. And he said, on both occasions, we've shut down. So you've got a Home Secretary who's bang at it with young boys. The police know about it and nothing is done. It's covered up.
If the state can mandate you to take something that could kill you, there's nothing that doesn't set a precedent for. Literally nothing. Freedom's done.
Yeah, there's
it's finished.
literally
it's over.
nowhere to draw a line after that. There's
No.
nowhere to draw a line because they're basically saying we own your body. We are going to decide how healthy or unhealthy you are. And eventually it's a false flag for down the line where they're just going to say, hey, you got this jab. It was supposed to keep you safe, but it wasn't efficient. So we need 5 more of them. And if you're getting sick, it's the people who aren't vaccinated, even though it doesn't stop you from getting this thing that doesn't even exist and hasn't been isolated. It doesn't stop you from spreading anything. It destroys your immune system, makes your symptoms worse, on top of the autoimmune issues that lead to cancer, brain thrombosis, heart problems, sterilization. I mean, it leads to so many other things. And so in 5 years from now, less than 5 years, at the rate it's going in a year from now, they'll just say the unvaccinated people are literally killing people, and now we need to put them in facilities like the ones they're building in New Zealand and in Australia. And it won't end there, and it'll never end until we make it end. This will never, ever end. Government has never been known to give back freedom, and they're certainly not going to give back the freedom to your bodily autonomy. So this is our time to shine, my friends. This is a global civil war. We've never seen it before like this. And if we don't stand up for ourselves and our families, then what are we even on earth for? What is the point of our very existence if we're not willing to stand up for our humanity and our children's humanity? I mean, this gets me so riled up because I know you have young children, and you know, a lot of people are dealing with this quandary. What do I do? Well, take your kids out of public school, first of all. Teach your children to be responsible for themselves and you know, self-responsible and strong-minded more than anything, because at this point in time, we are entering into the darkest stage in human history, and the Tower of Babel is falling.